Hello, students! Today we are going to do a complete revision of a very important chapter, sectors of the Indian economy. We'll connect all the dots, from the farms that grow our food to the factories that make our goods and the services we use every day. By the end of this session, you'll see how everything fits together, which will really help you prepare for your exams.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, the three main economic sectors. Then, we'll understand how we measure them. After that, we'll look at how things have changed in India over the years and talk about a very important issue, employment. Finally, we will cover the difference between organized and unorganized work and the roles of the public and private sectors. Let's get started.
All right, let's begin with the very first classification. We classify economic activities based on what kind of work is being done. This gives us three main sectors, and these are the absolute building blocks for this entire chapter.
First up, we have the primary sector. Now, the key word to remember here is natural resources. This sector includes any activity that directly uses nature to produce something. For example, farming, where we use land and water, or fishing, where we take fish from the sea, or mining, where we extract minerals from the earth. That's why it's also called the agriculture and related sector. It's the base of the economy.
Okay, so what happens next? The products from the primary sector are then taken to the secondary sector. Here, those natural products are transformed into other goods through manufacturing. So think of cotton from the farm being turned into cloth, or sugarcane being processed to make sugar. This is all about manufacturing, so we also call it the industrial sector.
And finally, we have the tertiary sector. Now this one is a little different. It doesn't produce physical goods. Instead, it provides services. These services are the support system for the other two sectors. Think about it. How would the cotton get from the farm to the factory? Through transport. How does the factory owner get money? From a bank. These activities, transport, banking, teaching, are all services.
Now, the most important thing to remember is that these three sectors are deeply interconnected. They depend on each other completely. A farmer in the primary sector needs tractors, which are made in the secondary sector. A factory worker in the secondary sector needs food from the primary sector, and both of them need services like banking and transport from the tertiary sector to do their work. It's a chain. They can't exist without each other.
So now we know what these three sectors are. But a big question arises. How do we compare them? How do we calculate the total value of all the goods and services produced in a country? Let's figure that out.
To understand this, let's take a simple example, a packet of biscuits. The journey starts with a farmer who grows and sells wheat. That wheat then goes to a flour mill, which grinds it and sells the flour to a biscuit company. The company then uses that flour, adds sugar and other things, and sells the final biscuit to us, the consumers. Notice how value is added at each.
Now please pay close attention. This is a very common point of confusion and is extremely important for exams. To calculate the total value, should we add the value of the wheat, plus the value of the flour, plus the value of the biscuit? No. If we do that, we are counting the value of the wheat multiple times. This is called the problem of double counting. To avoid this, we only count the value of the final good, which is the biscuit. The wheat and flour are called intermediate goods because their value is already included in the final price of the biscuit. And this brings us to a very, very important term, GDP, which stands for Gross Domestic Product. The definition is simple. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within a country in 1 year. GDP basically tells us how big a country's economy is. Please remember this definition.
You know, as countries develop, the importance of these sectors tends to change. Historically, most countries started with the primary sector being the most important. Then, with industrialization, the secondary sector grew. And in most developed countries today, it's the tertiary or service sector that dominates. So what has been India's story? Let's have a look.
Just look at this chart. It tells a story of a massive change in the Indian economy. GVA, or gross value added, is just a way to see each sector's contribution. Look at the first bar. Back in 1977, the primary sector, agriculture, was the biggest contributor. Now, fast forward 40 years to 2017, it's a completely different picture. The tertiary sector has grown so much that it's now the largest contributor to our economy.
So, why did this huge shift happen? This is a very common 3-mark question, so please note these points. First, any developing country needs basic services like hospitals, schools, and banks. Second, as farming and industries grew, they needed more services like transport and storage. Third, when people's incomes rise, they start spending more on services like tourism, restaurants, and shopping.
And finally, in India's case, the boom in information technology created a whole new world of services. This brings us to a very interesting puzzle. We just saw that the service sector produces the most value, the most money for the country. So it's logical to think that it must also be providing the most jobs, right? Well, let's check the data.
And here is the big surprise. While the tertiary sector's share in GDP has gone up dramatically, its share in employment hasn't. Look at the numbers. Even today, the primary sector continues to be the largest employer, with around 44% of people working in it. This means that while the money has shifted away from agriculture, the people have not. The other sectors have not created enough jobs.
This situation leads to a problem known as disguised unemployment or underemployment. The term might sound complicated, but the idea is simple. Imagine a small farm where the work can be done by 3 family members, but 5 are working there because they have no other job. Those extra 2 people appear to be employed, but they are not actually contributing anything to the production. If they were to leave, the farm's output would remain the same. This is a very big problem in rural India. Okay, now let's look at the economy from a completely different angle. This time, we are not classifying activities based on what is produced, but based on the working conditions. This gives us 2 sectors, organized and unorganized.
Let's understand this with the story of 2 workers. First, we have Kanta. She works in the organized sector. This means her company is registered with the government and it follows all the rules. She has a proper job with a regular salary, fixed working hours, paid leave, and job security. Now let's look at Kaman. He works in the unorganized sector. His work is not registered. He is a daily wage laborer with no fixed hours, no benefits like paid leave, and absolutely no job security.
The sad reality is that in India, a very large number of people work like Kamal in the unorganized sector. They face low pay, insecure jobs, and have no social security benefits. That is why these workers are very vulnerable and are in great need of protection and support from the government.
And this brings us to our final method of classification, which is based on ownership. It's a simple question. Who owns the assets? The factories, the offices, the land? Is it the government or private individuals?
This gives us 2 sectors. First, the public sector. Public means it is owned by the government. Think of the Indian Railways. Its main motive is not to make a huge profit, but to provide a service for the welfare of the public. On the other hand, we have the private sector, which is owned by private individuals or companies, like Reliance Industries. Here, the main motive is to earn profit.
So why do we need the public sector? Well, some things are so essential and so expensive that a private company might not want to provide them, because it's not very profitable. Think of building roads, dams, or providing electricity to every village. The government has to do this. It also has a duty to provide key services like education and healthcare to all its citizens and support important sectors like agriculture. A perfect example of the government playing its role is the MGNREGA scheme. You should remember this name. Under this act, the government guarantees 100 days of employment in a year to rural households, providing them with a crucial safety net and income.
So, we have come to the end of our revision. The most important thing for you to understand is that all these classifications are connected. They are different ways of looking at the same economy. Try to see the links between them. And to leave you with a final thought, I want you to think about this question. How does the condition of a single farmer who works in the primary and most likely the unorganized sector connect to the country's GDP and highlight the role of the government? Ponder on that. All the best for your preparations.